Okay. Is my screen visible? Anyone? Okay. I think just to recollect what we discussed in the last session. I think we solved some problems based on strings and lists, right? So in today's session, we'll be discussing about nested list concept. Okay, it's very important. Nested list, where using which we create 2D matrix. Okay, so 2D matrix, and we'll be solving 2D array-based problems. Got it? So it's a very important topic. So in this, what we will be learning is how to create nested list, right? Accessing of the elements. Then we will see how to initialize. It's a very important part, how to initialize 2D matrix. Then we will see how to do addition of two matrices and multiplication of two matrices, right? So it's a very important concept. So many times this multiplication of matrices they have asked in the product batch exam. So if you're doing it with the C, then it's fine. But if you are doing it with Python, it will be much more easier if you know the syntaxes. Okay. So we'll see these topics first, and if time permits, we will go with the remaining topics. So very less strength today. So still people are able to join or not. Please inform CRs in your sections, as it is a very important topic. Okay. I think we can begin. So we're already 6:33. Right. So first thing we'll see how to create this nested list. Okay. To take one list, for example, right? So if you have one more list inside another list, then it is called as nested list. Okay. So like this. So you can see what I'm doing. Right. So what you are saying here inside the list, I'm creating the another list, right? So list of list is called as a nested list. So how to create it the nested list? You just add as many lists as you want inside the main list, right? So this is the concept of nested list. Very simple. So you can just directly print them as usual, like how you do with the list concept. Okay. So here you are printing all the values on the same line, right? So basically, why we are using nested list to create the 2D matrix. Now my question is, can we print this in the format of matrix, right? How can we print in the form of matrix? Can anyone tell me? So question is, so print the above list or nested list in the matrix format. That's the question I'm asking. Can anyone tell me how to do it? So here I'm printing all of them on the same list, right? So just for visualization purpose, how can we display in the format of matrix? I have to access each of the list one by one and I have to print them row wise, right? So can anyone tell me? It is just as how you do with the normal list, right? How you print the elements of the normal list, you use the for loop, right? So here also we can use the for loop. So for I in, what is our name? Name of the list? List one, right? So for I in list one, print I. So if you do like this, see now it is printing in the format of matrix. So let us have same number of elements so that you won't get confused. So 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 5, 3, something like this. Okay. So now this can be considered as a matrix, right? So just like normal list, how you print it, you can print the nested list values also. Okay. So it's a basics of how to create the nested list. One list inside the another list. You can embed and access them as usual. Now, based on this, let us do lists. Okay, let's do like this. I want to embed, I want to create the nested list, right? So in 2030, this has to be inside the another list. Yeah. So let's try to print some value, how to access them. Okay. So if I access like this, what will be the output of this pseudocode? Can anyone tell me? So what I'm trying to print here? Okay, 90. Let's try to print it. Okay. So yeah, very good. So you can access the nested list just like how you access the normal 2D arrays in C, right? Two indexes you can use. So this indicates the first set of values from the first list. So I mean 0, 1, right? So every list starts with the 0 index. So this is 0th index. This is first index, right? So from the first index, what we're trying to access the second element. So 0, 1, 2. So the output will be 90. So you should be able to understand this. So you have to create the nested list in this way and access the elements using the two indices. If you want to fetch the individual value, use the two indices. Okay, so this is the just basics about how to create the nested list. Now let us, here I'm doing the compile time, right? That means this is compile time initialization. Compile time initialization. That means I'm assuming these values. So let us create the list from the user, right? So that means you have to enter the values on the screen. That means user has to enter the values. So creating matrix, 2D matrix, right? That's what we are trying to do here. Okay. So obviously, when you think about matrix, what is required? When you think about matrix, what you require? You require a number of rows, right? So number of rows and number of columns. So this is mandatory. So how many rows you want and how many columns you want, and based on that, you have to enter one by one. Correct. So let us read both the values on the same line. So R indicates the number of rows and C indicates the number of column, right? So tell me, how can I read both the values on the same line in Python? So if you had forgotten, you can recollect it. So I want R and C on the same line as an integer value. Tell me, anyone? Reading two input values separated by space on the same line. So that means, suppose if I say 3 rows, 2 columns. So I have to be entering these values on the same line. 3 rows, 2 columns. So what is the function I need to use to enter two values on the same line? Yes, very good. So map int of input of dot split, correct? Since I want to read based on the space, right? So map function you can use int comma input dot split. So here you are entering two values, one will go to R, another will go to C. So that means you're reading the number of rows and columns, right? So it's a basic one. Then we have to create a matrix. So as I told you, matrix can be created using list only. So we will assume that there is an empty matrix. So this is an empty matrix actually. So how to create an empty matrix? Just put the square brackets without mentioning any values. Okay. Now what is our job? reading the values from the user, right? So user has to enter the values one by one. So I'll give you multiple ways. So please make a note of it or understand it carefully. So there are a lot of different ways of reading the input in the Python for matrix especially. So understand one by one. So whatever the best approach that you can understand, you can follow it later on. Now, obviously, what is the first thing that I have to do if I want to read the 2D matrix? What is required? Can I read the matrix using only one loop? How many loops are required? A basic approach, right? So like just like C, in C, what you guys did, you used to enter the first for loop where it will keep track of number of rows, and the second for loop will keep track of number of columns. Right, very good. So we need to use two for loops, right? So what is the condition for I in range of rows, right? So first for loop will keep track of rows. That is why I'm mentioning R in the range function for I in range of rows. So in Python, it's a bit different. So try to understand. Not like straightforward C. In C, what you guys used to do. So let us first recollect how to do in C, right? So you used to write for I equal to 0, I is less than R, I plus plus, right? Then inside for j equal to 0, j is less than n. I mean, less than column, j plus plus, right? Then what you used to do? Scanf percentage d ampersand a of I comma j, right? This is how you used to do in C. Now in Python, we have to do it bit differently because we don't have a concept of 2D array. In C, we used to declare int a of 10 like this, right? So what does it mean? An array, 2D array consisting of 10 rows and 10 columns, right? So we don't have this kind of syntax in Python. So anything that you want to create 2D values, that means you have to use matrix on, I mean, the normal list only. So the normal list only, you have to convert it into a nested list like this, and then access the elements as a matrix format, right? So what we will do is, we will basically just follow this approach. So what we have done here, inside one list, we added another list, right? So these values can be considered as a individual rows. So first row, second row, and third row. So that's what we have to do even when reading the value from the user, right? So every time I enter the first for loop, what we have to do is we have to take another list. For example, I'll take the list name as row. So inside the first for loop, first value should be an empty row. So why we are declaring this, I will tell you. Then after that, we have to iterate over the column for j in range column, right? So C is the column. Now, what is the concept I am telling you? You have to read this value and append it to the list one. And again, you have to read this second row, second set of list values and append it to the main list. Third row, append it to the main list. So basically how we are creating the matrix in the Python, right? How we are creating, can anyone summarize? By reading new list each time we enter main loop and appending it to the matrix. Correct. That's what we have to do. So every time we enter the first for loop, we have to read a new list of values, and that value should be stored inside this row variable. Then that row should be appended into this particular matrix. Okay. So for I in range R row. So for J in range C. So please be very careful about the indentation, otherwise you'll get a lot of error. So inside this for loop, what we have to do? Tell me. So we have to read the column values based on the count, right? So that means if I mention the value as 3 comma 2, that means 3 rows and every row is having two values, right? So I have to add two values. So how will you read the value from the user and append it to the row? First thing is we have to append it to the row. So very good. Avinash has come up with the syntax. So row dot append, right? So not J. So Avinash, if you mention J, that means you will be adding the index of j, right? So we should add the value that user enters. So inside the append function, what I have to do? We can pass input function, right? Int of input, because I want to read the value from the user, and then that value should be appended to the this row. So if you want, if you this thing is complicated, if you think, so just take one more variable, then int of input you can do here, then that value you can pass here. Okay, so this is like reading the input from the user, storing it inside that variable, then that variable I am appending into this row. So like this, you have to enter the values, right? So after entering the values, right, what I have to do? Once you complete the entering the values based on the number of column mentioned here, then you know the mean list is matrix, right? So that entire row should be appended into the matrix. So can you understand what I have done here? So matrix dot append of row. So what we have done here, can anyone tell me? Adding the first row, adding each row, not the first row, adding each row to the main matrix, correct? That's what we are doing here. So matrix dot append of row, right? So when we do this, we have completed the first set of row values. Then we'll go back to the main for loop. I will be incremented. Again, we reinitialize this row. So now you understand why we have done it here. Is it not important to mention it here? Did you understand what is the reason why we have kept that row set row list inside the first for loop? Because after adding the new row, after adding the previous row, the new row should be initialized to empty again, so that the next row set of values can be added, right? So each time we re-enter the first for loop, reinitialize. That's what we are doing here, right? So with this, what we have done, we have read the values from the user, right? So can you guys understand what I have done here? Please let me know. Anyone have any doubt here? If you want me to explain what we have done here, so that I'll go to the next one. So now we have completed the reading part. Anyone have any doubt? Please ask me. 2 minutes I'll give you if you want me to explain what is happening here. Okay, so let me explain here. For example, so take a 2D matrix. So say for example, 3 rows, 2 columns, right? I have to enter the values here, right? 3 rows, 2 columns, right? So totally how many values are required? 6 values are required. So when we, okay, so for I in range of R. So R in the sense what it is here? 3. Let me increase the size of this. Okay. So for I in range of 3. So what we are doing here is row we are taking every time. That means initially this matrix is empty. So we have created an empty row. Then inside this, again, we will iterate up to the columns. So what is our number of columns? 2, right? So first thing what we will do is we will add these values, right? So say for example, I am entering some values. So 10 and 20, right? So I'm entering these values. So how many values I should enter? Each row should contain only 2 values, right? So that's why for j in range of 2. So first thing is create an empty list, right? In that I have to add these 2 values. Say for example, row 1 I am adding. So in row 1, what are the values? 10, 20. These values I'm adding, right? So how to add that? First thing is you have to read these values from the user, right? So how will I read the values from the user? It's a basic thing, right? Int of input inside the column. second for loop, we are doing this. So say for example, variable int of input, because we are converting that into integer. Then this value should be appended to which list? This list, right? So row of dot append, and what is the value I'm appending? var. So like this, if I do until I reach the number of columns. So a range of 2 means 0 and 1, right? So I'll be reading two values, and both the values I'm appending into this row. Now this row is having these values. Now what is our next step after this? We have one more matrix, right? The main matrix. So what is our matrix name? Matrix itself, right? Now this value should be appended here. That means it should come here. This row should be appended to this main matrix. So for that, what we have to write after coming out of the inner for loop, and inside the main for loop, what we have to do? We have to write the matrix name, matrix dot append, and what we have to append? This entire row we have to append, right? So what is that I have to do? Just mention the list name. So matrix dot append of row. So by this, what we have done, we have completed entering the first row in the main matrix. So now what the compiler will do, it will go back to the main for loop, right? Then I becomes 1. So 0th row is done. Then 1 and 2. Then again, we will enter the next set of values, add it to the matrix. Third set of values, add it to the matrix. So in this way, each row we are first creating, and that row we are adding it to the main matrix. So that's how we are creating the list. I mean, we are creating the 2D matrix. So hope everyone understood how second row append. Okay. So can we directly append it something like this? I'll tell you a lot of different procedures are there. This is the most basic one everyone should know. So here, now we have created the matrix. Now, obviously, I have to print the matrix, right, after entering. So we call it as a resultant matrix, correct? The technical term is resultant matrix. So we have to print the resultant matrix. So in C, generally, how you print the matrix? Can anyone tell me? So two loops you have to use for I in range of row, then inside that for J in range of column, then print what is our matrix name? Matrix itself. So matrix of I comma, I mean I and J. Right. So let's print this and see what is happening. Okay. So first thing, what I have to enter number of rows and columns. So let us enter 2 rows and 2 columns. So totally how many values I should enter on the screen? 4 values I have to enter because 2 cross 2 I have to do. So 3 something I'm entering. Okay. Now you understood the values are printing, but is it printing in the matrix format? What is the changes I have to do in this? It is printing like a normal array values. So in this for loop, what is the changes I have to do? 2 cross 2 means how the value should be printed. So like this 3, 67, 12 and 56. In this way I have to print, right? So what is the changes you have to do in this code so that it prints in the matrix format? Bracket is not required, at least in this format. Remove space in print. Okay. There is no space here. So you know the end keyword, right? Which you remember we learned this in the beginning. So after printing each value, it has to end with a space, right? So let us try to do it again. Okay, now we have done this, but still, now what is the problem? After this also, I'm getting all the values on the same line. So in C, what you used to do after the first for loop, when you go back to the second for loop, before going back to the main for loop, what we used to do, print slash n we used to write, right? Why that one? Because after printing each row, I have to give a new line so that the next row value is printed on the next line. Yes, very good. So where we have to do that? Tell me where I have to write that print. Can I write here? Where exactly it has to start? So let us add the line numbers. Okay. So now you are seeing the line numbers. So in which line I have to add it and at what place? So if I do it here also, it may not work because, right, again, it is going to the new line. So this line should exactly come after the inside for loop. So generally this will belong to this for loop and this statement belongs to this for loop, right? So after completing this inner for loop, before going to the main for loop, we are just printing, just adding print keyword, right? So let's see what happens now. Okay, so now can you see, is it printing in the matrix format? So this is a general way of printing the matrix, just like C. Any doubt in this? For I in range of R, for J in range of C, print matrix of I comma J. End equal to null. I mean end equal to space. Then after coming out of the inner for loop, just add the print method. So no need to write again slash in here. By default, print adds the new line. Even if you add slash in also, we'll be printing the same thing. Okay. See, it is adding actually one more extra space. So no need to add any slash and just write the print method. Okay, so this is how we create the 2D matrix in Python. We are reading two values, row and column values, and we have to initialize the matrix. Then each row we have to create by entering the value, then append that row into the main matrix, right? Now this is a time consuming process, right? So that means I have to use two for loops and write in this syntax. So Python provides a better syntax to minimize this work, right? So if you already created the matrix, then no need to use two for loop, just uh, use a single for loop for I in what is our matrix name, matrix itself, then print I. Okay. So can you see what is happening here? Can anyone understand and explain what is happening in this code? So we avoided this total writing both the loops, just like how we have done it in C. And in Python, we are just accessing the matrix itself directly and printing I. So what is happening here? So for I in matrix, print I, just two lines. How the rows are getting printed? So to understand that, you can just use the this syntax, right? So here what we did, this was a nested list, right? So each value in term is another row, right? So this 1, 2, 3 is the first row, 4, 5, 6, 7 is another row, 1, 2, 5, 6 is another row, right? So how we were printing it? Using the for loop. So for I in list 1, print I means we are accessing this index values starting from 0. So each index is representing another list. So in 0th index 1, 2, 3, 4 we are printing first index 4, 5, 6, 7. So in the same way, here also we are printing the matrix as how the user entered. So 23 and 56 in the first row and 43 and 26 in the second row. So I'm not understanding your question. Please post it in the Q&A forum. I'll go through it. Okay. So hope you understood what is happening here. So basically we are printing each row directly, each row from the matrix directly. That's why you are getting these brackets also here. Here you are accessing only the values, but here you are accessing the entire list. That's why bracket is also appearing here, right? So printing each row from the matrix directly. So hope you're able to understand and you can follow this only directly because it's much easier compared to this one. So this is creating the 2D matrix in Python. Now we will experiment with this code. As I told you in the last session, you have to experiment with the code. Let's try to enter the values differently and see how the code works, right? Let me enter 3 and 2. That means 3 or we can take some other values. 3 rows, 3 columns. Okay. Now I'll enter the values like this. as somebody told. 3 rows, 3 columns means how many values I have to enter? 3 cross 3, 6 values I have to enter, right? So let me enter the 6 values all on the same line separated by space. So what is the problem here? Why it is not working? I'm getting value error. So you can't enter all values on the same line with this code, correct? So what is the problem with this code, or is it not a problem basically? Sorry, 9 values. Yeah, sorry, 9 values. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. First we have to enter 3, 3, then okay. So still we are getting the value error. So find the problem in the code or just say a suggestion because we need to understand these kind of errors. So with this code, can I enter all the values on the same line? So you understood that it is not possible. Let us take 2 cross 2 only. So as just like a matrix, we will enter the first row of values. 2 cross 2 means 4. So assume that I'm entering 1, 2 as a first row of values. But when I press enter, I'm getting the error, right? Before going to the next row itself, I'm getting the error. What is this value error? Invalid literal for int with base 10. Okay, we are entering with space, not slash n. Okay. Okay. Any other answer? This we have learned in the beginning how to enter the list values on the same line, how to enter the list values on the new line. So you need to recollect that topic to understand this error, right? So basically the problem here is inside the second for loop, we are reading each values one by one, right? So int of input, that means for G in range, we are equal to int of input. That means I have to, at any cost, I have to enter only one value at a time. So that means only if I enter each values on the new line, then only it will work properly. Correct? So I can't enter values on the same line with this code. Correct? So this is the problem with this first approach. Correct? So first approach of creating the matrix. So what is the problem with the above code? Not problem, just like a loophole you can say. The loophole is we can't enter the row values, I mean each column values in the same line in the above approach. And it is a time consuming, right? Because I have to press enter after entering each value, I have to press enter button and go to the next value and then enter. So it is a time consuming process. So we have to find some other approach where we can minimize this double work, right? Then we can do it using input dot split, just like how we have done here. Map int of input dot split. So what we were doing here, we were reading row and column values both on the same line, right? So similarly, we have to change our way of reading the values inside the for loop so that we enter all the row values on the same line, right? So can anyone suggest me what we can do? So what is the first step? Same thing like previously, map of int comma input dot split. So you are reading the row and column values, right? Then we have to create an empty matrix. Okay. For I in a range of rows. Okay. Now here what we have to do. So this is a question mark for you guys. Just think what I want to do is I want to remove these 2 lines and make sure that it is done in the same line. We can use map function and enter 3 values. Okay. So Avinash has given the correct answer, right? So basically, I have to read a list of values on the same line, right? So first thing is you have to use the map function, just like how you done in the first line, map of int comma input dot split. Okay. But there is one more problem with this because I want to add them as a list of values. That means I have to convert the entire values into list. So you can just put list onto overall this map function. So what is happening in this code? First, we will read all the values on the same line and then convert that values into list using the list function. Correct? So inbuilt function list we are using here. Then what is the next line? That's all right. So directly you can add matrix dot append row. So we have totally avoided using the second for loop with this method, correct? So I just need to know the number of rows, then enter all the row values on the same line, then matrix dot append of row, right? So let us see whether it works or not. Then how will you print the matrix for I in matrix? Tell me, print of I, correct? So invalid syntax. What is the mistake here? Can anyone identify what is the mistake in my code? Where is the error? Yes. So for I in, so you should be careful with this. Okay. So I'll enter three rows, three columns, right? So what I will have to do here is first row, I have to enter three values, then press enter button, then second row, three values, then press enter button, then third row. You can go in that order, right? So I have read the first row of values, second row of values, third row of values, right? So now you can see, right? It is working. Yes, very good question. Vijay Chandra, I was about to tell that. So let me go slowly. It's a very valid question what Vijay Chandra is asking. That is my next question actually. So what is the problem we solved here? Each value we were entering on this different line here that we have overcome with the this approach. So what we did, instead of using the second for loop, we read all the values on the same line using this syntax list of map of int comma input dot split, right? Sir, which is more effective? Both are same. Both are same. There is no difference. Map also uses the iteration. Int of x also uses the iteration. Both you can use. Okay. So now Vijay Chandra's question, everyone observe what he's asking is, sir, in this method, if we input more values, then the column size will change, right? So very, very important question that he has asked. Now, what is the problem in this code? We are not given any input for column, right? Here we were giving the range of column values, but here we are not even mentioning any column values, right? Okay, so we are not even uh, changing the, but map object should be changed. No, that is not an issue because it won't take any extra time for doing that. Only when you are iterating, then only time will increase. Converting from one format to another format won't take any extra time to do it. Okay. So hope you understood. Right. So here, what is the problem? We are not giving any input for column, right? So we are directly reading based on the input dot split as long as there are values. So let us try to do this once again. So 3 cross 3 I will do. Let me enter more column values. Okay. Now what is the problem? What happened here? Can you identify? The number of rows and column I mentioned here is 3 and 3. But I am entering more columns based on the map function, but I'm not adding exactly 3. Correct? I have to add exactly 3. But still I am entering the more columns. This code is accepting as many column values as I am entering. Understood? So that is what exactly Vijay Chandra is asking, right? Is that correct, Vijay Chandra? Is it what you are asking? Yes. Okay. So what we have to do here, we have to restrict to the number of columns to only 3, right? So whatever the extra columns I am going to enter, that should be ignored by the compiler. So you can, for this, you can use slicing concept. Avinash is already sent here, right? So matrix dot append row colon 3. So instead of that, what you can do here is while reading only split after the split function, you can just mention in the square bracket colon, what is my number of columns? C, right? You can just mention like this. So what does this code does is only reads up to that particular column values, right? So if you enter any extra values, it will ignore them. So let us enter more values. Okay, so can you see what happened here? So while reading the input itself, mention the slicing concept. So what does this slicing is doing? It is starting from zero and reading up to column value based on whatever you have entered here on the screen. 3 means it will only read up to 0, 1, 2. So 0, 1, 2, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 56, 34, 4 and 5. So remaining values it is ignoring even though you are entering. So this is a better approach, right? So hopefully you have understood how to overcome that extra column values in this second approach. Any doubt you have till now? Anyone who is thinking it is a bit difficult to follow it up, just practice because the syntaxes are easy. Only if you practice it, you can understand it. So you have to keep typing the code, then you will get better with the syntaxes. So what we have done, map of int comma input dot split. Then for that, we have converted that into list object. Then after split function colon C, that means only read up to that particular index. Any doubts, please let me know. Okay, so two approaches you understood, right? So I'll give you one more approach, just like how somebody suggested here is using list comprehension. You can use list comprehension technique also. Okay, list comprehension techniques. So sometimes they will give the condition like this. Read the input on the different line. So number of rows on first line, number of rows on the second line. So you should be able to do this also. Okay. So now I don't want to do like this. Again, use for loop, read list of values, then append it to the row, right? I mean, append this row into the matrix. So we can avoid this totally by using the list comprehension. So I'll directly take the matrix element. Then inside that, whatever we written here, this one, I will write as a list comprehension. So list of map of int comma input dot split. Then after the split, colon C, right? So colon C. Then what we will do for I in range of rows. So understand the syntax. Then directly I will write print resultant matrices for I in matrix print I, right? So this is using list comprehension we are doing. So based on the number of columns. So what is this syntax telling you? For every row in the matrix, this is how it goes. So for every row in the matrix, read these columns, right? So you know the syntax of list comprehension, right? Expression for I in iterable. So what is our iterable? Number of rows. What is our expression? This entire thing is our expression. So for every row, do this is what we are telling to the compiler. So for every row, we are reading the values on the same line, then storing that entire row value into the matrix directly without using any append function. So let's see whether it works or not. Now, if I enter both values on the same line, will it work? 3 rows, 3 columns. It won't work. Again, what is the reason? Because in our first line, we are reading the row values on the separate line and column values on the separate line. So we should be careful about these conditions. So 3 and 3 have to enter on the new line. Then every row values I'll enter on the same line. Okay. So hope you were able to follow it up. Right. So list of map of int input dot split. This you can do. So you see how easy it is compared to C language. We have reduced it one by one. So first we try to do it just like how we do it in C. This is a bit complicated. Then we modified this approach into this one, right? Again, we modified this approach into this one finally. So this is how you can minimize your typing time and also, understand how the Python provides this syntaxes efficiently, right? So list of map of int input dot split you can use using list comprehension. Sir, how to get input till something like control displays? For that, you can use while loop and you have to mention the condition until the terminating character. So normally using this list compression, it is not possible. You have to use do while loop or while loop for that. Okay, somebody suggested this one. This also you can use int of x for x in input dot split. This will also work. But generally, I follow this approach because I'm habituated with this one and I'm more comfortable using map function. So I'll stick to this syntax only because you can learn multiple ways, but you should know which one will work in the test case because we don't know what kind of requirement they're asking. They might ask to enter the row values on new line, or they might ask to row values on the same line up to the number of columns, right? But generally, if you talk about the matrix, this is the most simplest way, right? Which you can follow it up. Okay, any doubt till now? Any doubt? Hope you understood the three ways of creating the 2D matrix in Python. So if you need any explanation, anyone, those who are beginner, uh, yes, just like C, no other shortcut for that. Anyone who are new to Python want to learn once again, please let me know. 2 minutes I'll give you. Then we'll solve one problem based on the 2D matrix. So from now on, when you want to read row values and column values in Python, you just need a single line. You just need this one line, right? And you should know the row values and column values. That's all. So two values are required, and based on that, you can read it. So just remember the syntax and practice it without making any syntax errors. Definitely, this will save a lot of time in the 2D problems. Okay, so can we move to the next problem so that we can understand how to do it? So we'll try to solve one problem based on this syntax. Okay. Okay. So the requirement I'll give you, enter the row values and column values in same line. Okay. The same line. Then what is the requirement for you guys is once you enter the number of rows and column values from the user, you have to print the middle column of the matrix. Okay, that is my requirement. You have to print the middle column of the matrix. That means suppose if your matrix is like this 2 3 1 4 5 6 7 8 9 something like this, your output should be only this column values, right? So you have to print the column values like this 3 5 8 in this order only you have to print, don't not like a list, not like this, right? So you have to print 3 5 8 only from the given matrix. That is my question. Now there are multiple approaches for this based on the input. Now here we are getting exactly the middle column, fine. What if your matrix is 2 cross 2 or 4 cross 4? For example, let us take 1 2 3 4. Okay, suppose this is your matrix. Now there is no middle column, right? So what you will do? There is no middle column here. How will you find the middle column here in this case? So what you have to do is you have to take the number of columns and divide it by 2 and round it off to the nearest integer. You have to use the floor division operator. So you know the floor division operator, right? Floor division. Okay, so say in this case, what is our number of columns? Number of column is 4. So 4 by 2 you have to do. So 4 by 2 is how much? 2, right? So that means I have to access the second column. Second column is 0, 1, 2. So this will be my middle column in this case. Now suppose if you are having only these two columns, then you will do 2 by 2. That means you will extract the first column, right? So you just have to divide by 2 and extract that value, the nearest integer value. Okay, that is the requirement. Can you explain seconds and DSA problems? Sure. After your mid exams, please let me know what problems you are looking for, because we can't cover all the things, as a lot of other topics in Python itself you have to teach. So if you want, I can explain stack queue problems, linked list and all. Right now, it's not going to help you because you need a kind of practice for that, right? So in C itself, you have to practice first properly. In Python, it will be much difficult actually. So linked list problem, tree problems are much easier in C compared to Python, is what I feel, right? But 2D problems you can do it in Python. So you can give the requirement what exactly you are not understanding in terms of syntax. We will do it. But all type of problems, which I don't know whether time will permit or not. We'll see. You can just send me the requirement. I will just go through that. So hope you understood the requirement, right? For this problem. So what is the syntax? What is our first line should be? Start doing it. Type. You can practice in your laptop or write down in your notebook. So don't just listen to me while I explain. You keep writing somewhere. No, get habituated with the syntax, right? Then only you will enjoy the coding. So first line should be map of int comma input dot split, right? Or if you want to use list comprehension, int of x, right? For x in input dot split, right? So let us try to print the values, right? So this is also somebody suggested, right? You can use this syntax also. So int of x for x in input dot split using list comprehension. Now, how will you do the reading values? Yeah, so reading is same like before, matrix of, so in the list comprehension, list of map of int comma input dot split, right? And then colon up to the column, then coming out of the loop for I in range of row. Now you see here, are we making use of this I anywhere in this syntax? So basically I we are mentioning, but are we using this I anywhere? No, right? So whenever you are iterating the some values, iterable values, and if you're not using that index, you can just mention the underscore. So underscore means it's a dummy variable basically. So when that index is not required for you, you can just ignore that uh, index name, right? So in this case, even if you ignore this I and just write underscore, it will work because we are not making use of that I anyway, right? Yeah, so Avinash has already sent it. Then for next line, for I in range of rows. So what is my explanation here? You have to extract the column values, divide by 2 as I told you. Row value will remain as it is, correct? Because we want the values from each row, the middle column we are accessing, right? So what is that syntax? If I do print matrix, I have to use, that is the name of the list. Then I column I value will remain same because I have to access each row value, right? So we can't remove I. Then column value you can make change, right? So what is that I have to do? Column divide by 2. Row division I'm using so that it's rounded off to the nearest integer, right? So end equal to backslash n. So why I'm using backslash n? Right. So 3 cross 3. right? Why backslash n is required? Because I want to print in this same order. Like as a column, I want to print. That's why each value should be ended with new line. Each print value should be ended with new line. Suppose if I don't use this, what happens? Okay, okay, still it will work. Yes, because we are inside the for loop, right? So it's not mandatory. You can just ignore that one. And equal to slash n is not mandatory. Now my next question is, can you guys try to print that value as a matrix? I mean, as a entire list. Now I want this 258 like this. I want exactly like this. How can you do it? Anyone? Did you understand my requirement? Now I don't want to display in the format of column. I want to display in the format of list. So 2 comma 5 comma 8 with the bracket I want. Okay, so end equal to, let's try this. But it is not displaying in the list format, right? It is displaying like a values. I want like a list. Simple question, right? So you need not to iterate this entire thing. You can comment line. So very simple. You just need to print matrix of, yes, somebody is giving some complicated code. Int of c by 2. Okay, so let's see this. So this will also not work because when you say c by 2, you are displaying the second row. So what is the further modification you can do? So within my code, you please modify it. I don't want any big codes like this. Again, here you are complicating here, Nikhil. Within this code, we have to do the changes. Matrix of space c by 2. Okay. So what you can do is just instead of printing them, maybe transpose it. Okay. Directly go, it's not possible because you don't know how many rows and columns are there. You can't directly print c by 2, right? Instead of printing this for every value, what you can do is you can create another empty row, correct? As a list. So you can copy this into that variable, any variable, matrix of, what was the syntax? Matrix of I c by 2, right? So variable equal to matrix of I c by 2. Okay. So I am accessing that value. Then what we can do? Row dot append of var. Then once we come out of this for loop, we can just print that row. Okay. So using numpy, numpy and all is not required for the simple problems. Okay. Did you guys understand what I did here? So we have to take another list. append each value which you are accessing, and put that into this row, then print it directly. So this is another way. Any doubts in this? So you should know the conditions, what how they are asking you guys to print it. So you have to know how to come out with the different approaches for the same question, right? You need not to make it more complicated, just modify here and there so that you can get the test case matching. Let's try 2 cross through. So 2 cross 2 means this will be accessing 2 and 4 I have to access. That is what we are printing here. So I will remain same. Column by 2 we have to do because we have to extract exactly the middle value. That's why C by 2 we are doing here. So what happens if I just use by 2? Let's see. So what is the problem I'm getting? List indices must be integers or slices, not float. So the problem here is the number of columns when I'm accessing, it is print matrix of IC by 2. Yeah, now he's come up with the approach. Yes, 4 cross 4. Okay. So 4 cross 4 means you will be accessing this one. 4 by 2 is 2. So 0, 1, 2, second index column you are accessing. 3, 7, 3, 7 will be your out. Okay, so here this syntax also you can use using list comprehension basically. So what he is using is list comprehension. Let me put that original one as it is. You can comment line. Hmm. Okay. So print matrix of I C by 2 for I in range of C. Now it is, since you are mentioning for I in range of C, it is printing it 3 times because 3 columns, right? So loop is not required. No, no, I didn't tell 2626. I think you got confused. I said, let me show you. Right here 4 cross 4, right? This is what I have to print. 3, 7, 11. That's what I have highlighted here. This is also for 3 cross 4, right? So 3 cross 4 means this one I am accessing 3, 7, 11. Yeah. So who suggested this one? Again, it is working half. Try to learn it, how to modify the same code, whatever you got it, and get only this one. I want you guys to try it because this one I explained, which I followed. You guys can do it. This is also possible, but I want you guys to try it. How to modify the same approach. Instead of getting 3 times, you have to get it only 1 time. Can we just write this? Can we just delete this? Check it out. See again here, each value is printing like this because I am trying to print it in a matrix format. Again, this will not help my cause. So remove indentation to get out of loop. No, indentation issue is not there because I am inside the for loop. Okay. This is what you suggested me, right? So when you say range of columns, it will print 3 times only. Matrix of I C by 2 for I in range. So I feel only according to me, whatever I know, this will be the way. You can try this if you possible. Let me know. You are in the for loop inside, sir. Is it? Okay, okay. Okay, okay. Understood, understood. So I have to comment line this. Yes. I think you guys found out the error here. So basically I didn't comment line this. Yes, now this is fine. So for I in range, this I comment line, it will work. See, these small mistakes only will cost you in the take more time in your exam. So you should be very careful. So what approach you understood here is two approaches you have. This is one manually I'm adding. Here using list comprehension we are doing. Both will work out. Okay. Those who are able to understand, hope you got it. Those who are feeling it difficult, you can ask me the doubts or I'll explain once again. Okay. So this initialization of two-day matrix is very important in Python. In C, we don't require it because in C, if I write int a of 4 comma 5 like this, it will automatically get initialized to 0. So I need not to manually initialize it to zeros. But in sometimes based on the condition, based on what exactly they are asking you to print, you should initialize the matrix before no, operating with that. So initialization is a very important concept whenever you work with the matrix problems. So let us try to understand this, how to initialize the matrix. So let me take simple value, rows equal to 3, columns equal to 2. Okay. So we will follow the first approach, what I explained previously. In this case, I just want to initialize it to 0, right? So I'll just access the rows and column values, right? Then what is the process? The very first approach, create empty row every time. Then for j in range of columns, row dot append of what I have to append? 0, right? Because I want to initialize it to zeros. So row dot append of 0. Then this entire row result dot append of row. Correct? This is the very basic approach which we already saw. So print, if I print result, how it is printing? Like in a nested list format. Then if I want exact row by row values, so for I in result, our matrix name is result. Then what I have to print? Every row I have to print. So print I means I'm printing the every row. So we have initialized the matrix to zeros, right? So 3 rows, 2 columns. This is a basic approach. Again, time consuming. You have to write 2 loops and all. How can you further simplify it? Using the list comprehension, which I explained. How can you simplify it? So let me just comment this. Okay. So for I in range of rows, correct. What is the list comprehension technique I told you? So row equal to list of map of int comma. What I have to do here? I have to, I'm not reading the value from the user, so you can't use input dot split here. If you use input dot split, that means you're expecting the user to enter the value. So I can't use input dot split. So instead, what I have to do? Map of int comma. Can I just write 0? That means I'm trying to append zeros to every column of the rows, right? So let's see whether it works. Then result of append row, right? Then let's try to print the matrix as it is. Okay, so what is the problem I'm getting? List object is not iterable. So it is telling list object is not iterable. That means map, when you are giving the value to the this map function, it has to be an iterable value, right? So here it is not allowing me to add zeros to the row directly like this in the syntax. So what modification we can do so that zeros get appended to the row? What is a map function syntax? Map syntax in Python. See the value and iterable. So zero is not iterable, right? So you have to give iterable here. So iterable you have to do. Avinash lambda I have not yet explained. So once I explain that concept, we can use it. As of now, let others learn the basic ways so that they'll go step by step. Lambda right now not required. Within my code, you have to do it. So you understood, right? Map function will not take the values like this because zero is not the iterable. It is a single digit value. So can I just append zero like this as a list? It worked, right? Let me print it as a matrix format for I in result. Okay. Now what is that we have done? Three rows, two columns, correct? So three rows, two columns, everything is initialized to zero. But can you understand some change in the output? Is it exactly a matrix? Three rows, two values matrix? Three rows, two columns matrix? What is the problem here? How the matrix is displayed? So basically every value is again considered as a matrix. So I don't want to get the output like this. For me, the value should be initialized just like this, 0, comma, 0, comma, 0, right? That's what I want. Every index should be initialized with 0. But the problem here is every index is initialized as a 0, but it is initialized as a list of zeros. So every value is considered as a list. So I don't want every 0 should be considered as a list. So what you can do? Result dot append of row of 0. Okay, very good. Let me try that. Okay, so while initializing, do we require this list function? No, right? So you should understand what is the problem here, right? So list of map is not required directly while appending. You can write row of 0. So for every, so what is our row basically? So row is like a list, empty list, which we are taking, right? Then every time the append we are doing as a 0. What is the problem we faced here? Okay, again, this also may not work because we are going out of index. We don't know what is the row count, right? So the matrix is 3 cross 3, but we took row as 3. Okay, okay. Three rows, two columns. Okay, so let's stick to my approach. Let's see first this one. So what I will do, 0 didn't work, right? Row list of map, then below this we have to do result dot append of row. So at the 18th line, we're getting a result dot. This is not allowed, right? So list index out of range. So basically, compiler is not able to understand what is row of zero. Even when you declare it also, it cannot recognize it basically. What is zero? As of now, it doesn't know. So it's not considering it as a value. Instead, it is considering it as an index. So we can't do like this. So what we can do, another approach is just int comma. Instead of directly writing zero, take the list and multiply by columns. Let's see. Okay. Yeah. So Nikhil has come up with. So here again, what is the problem? 3 rows, 2 columns. So number of rows is 3, number of columns is 2. But why we are getting here 3? Yes, because see, we are iterating over the number of rows, right? So that means every row multiplied by column, then append 0. Is it taking the previous value? Let's the dot append of C into Z. Yes, this will work definitely. So C into, but again, if you make it as 0, will it not be considered as a character, right? So see, it is considered as a character. So it is appending 3 times. So both these approaches will not help us, right? So let me try with the list comprehension. So simple approach, what we can do, just like C. So for I in range of, first we will try with the C syntax. I think, yeah, we already done it here, right? So this is the one approach. So what I'll do, this only I'll try to combine it as a list comprehension technique. So we saw this, right? Row dot append of 0. Same thing, we'll try to convert it into list comparison techniques. So what I will do, 0 expression I will write. What is my expression I want? 0 I want. 0 for I in range of columns, for j in range of rows. Let's try whether it works. For n result print of like. Okay, so now uh, see, this is again a one more loop itself. This I want to consider as a list itself. So I'll just add a bracket to it, so that that will be considered as a list for I in. Again here for I in. Yes, you will keep doing this mistake, so you have to be careful. So 3 rows, 2 columns. I think now this will work because the same thing I converted into list comprehension. So row dot append 0, I'm writing first here. So 0 for I in range of columns, for j in range of rows. So is it not similar to the reading values? See, same thing like this, right? So we are reading the values here up to column for every row values. Same thing, 0 for I in range of columns, for j in range of rows. So same syntax what we used for reading the input values, we are using it for reading the or initializing the 2D matrix. So you can write like this, 0 for I in range of columns, for j in range of rows. But you should be here. I have not used the extra bracket. You see, I have not used the extra bracket here because that is taken care by this map, and map is getting converted into list. correct? But here I have to use it explicitly because every zero that I'm appending also should be considered as a list, correct? So this is one list for first row, then again second row, this is a second list of zeros, third list of zeros. So this extra bracket is mandatory here. Understood? So if you're not able to understand this, you can just follow this approach, the basic approach, where we are reading the rows and initializing the row, adding the zero to the row, then that row we are adding it to the result matrix. So any one of the approach you can use it. I think this will be much easier. Again, are we making use of this I and j values in this code? No, right? So you can just write underscore till it will work, correct? So whenever you are not using that index values, you can just write the underscore as a dummy syntax, dummy variable basically. Any doubts in this? How to initialize? So even actually, I wanted that approach also to work. I'll just go through that later on why it is not working. So for I in range of this also should work actually. Rows. So then what I did, I just appended it to the matrix, right? So result dot append of row. Okay. So I think now it is working. So what was missing in my previous syntax? Did anyone notice what was missing actually? This is working now. So the missing part was this conversion of this entire thing into list. I think same like this. Here we were converting this entire map object into the list, right? So here also I think I had missed this list object. So list of map of int comma 0 into columns. So basically that one list is multiplied by the number of columns. So if you just write 0 into columns, it won't work. Again, int object is not iterable error you will get because map requires iterable object. So when we add bracket to this 0, what happens is that 0 is converted into iterable object, correct? Empty 0, but it is whenever you attach brackets to any value, it becomes a list, and list is a iterable, right? So when we are multiplying the iterable by number of columns, it is appending based on the number of columns 0 to it. If you want any other values, you can mention any other value. So the default value is 0, so we are adding 0. So whatever value you mention here, it will work, right? So what is the simplest one which you learned? I think this is the most simplest one. You can follow this approach. So for initialization of 2D matrix, I think this will be much easier compared to this and this in terms of syntax also, in terms of memory also. I think both, all of them are same in terms of memory utilization, but in terms of syntax, this is much easier. Understood, right? All these three approaches. Any doubt you have? Any doubt, guys? Why did it print 10 not 0? Because I have given the empty value, the first starting value as 10. Whatever the value you mention here, that value is getting multiplied by number of columns. So inside that list, every value gets multiplied by that default value. Okay, so now let me open the Moodle. So did you guys complete the string problems or you need any extension? Please let me know in advance so that I'll do it before the time deadline is over. Okay, so see this question. I'm going to add four more problems in your 2D list problems, right? So addition of two matrices. So you understand the requirement here. I've already given some default code. So most of your job will be easier. Can you understand what is this code, or let me just copy this as it is? Okay. So this is the existing code that I have given here. You just need to complete this function. Okay. You just need to complete this function. Write your code below. So till now, whatever you understood, can you just recollect what I have done in this code? This is code already given to you. For printing, I am using this basic syntax. So now I want you guys to tell me, how can you change this to a single line code, which I explained. Simplify this. Print matrix A. This is a C syntax, right? I want it to be shortened again. How can you shorten it? Sir, can you help for the hidden test case in first question of string based and list based problems? Okay, just post your query. I will reply there only. What is the hidden test case? What is that you need to understand? I will post in the query only. Q&A forum. Which test case is not matching? You just mention. I will reply what exactly need to be done. Yes, sir. There is a syntax error in first question of string based. So I am just showing you the hidden test case. Just check it out. This is the hidden test case. Whatever is missing. So input is North London is red, and output is as per this syntax. I mean, as per this string. Okay. So what was I was discussing? How can you minimize this? Tell me. For I in, what is my matrix name in the given code? A, right? So for I in A, what you have to write? Just print I, right? Similarly, this I can remove. For I in B, print I. Okay. Now, can you just recollect what we have done here? For I in range of rows, we are creating an list one. Hidden test case in index of, mention the question mark. So A dot append L1, B dot append L1, we have done it here. So how can you again remove this further and convert it into a single line? See, I've already given the code. You can just modify this as per the today's session. So this you can simplify further by writing how? A equal to, tell me, reading the matrix element, list of map of int comma input dot split, then up to the colon, I mean the column values, then for I in range of rows, right? This will read all the matrix A elements. Similarly, I'll just copy this, then paste it here. I'll change the name of the list to B. Correct. So for I in range of rows. And you know the condition for addition of two matrix. What is the condition for addition of two matrix? The order of the matrix should be same. Correct. Both the matrix should be of the same size. That means the number of rows and columns should match. So this much code I have given already. So this is what we are reading from the user, creating two empty list. Then after this, printing matrix A and printing matrix B. Now I'm just asking you guys to complete this function. So you know how to create the function in Python, right? Initially I explained you. Briefly I told you. We have a separate topic to cover based on the function. So I'll cover a lot of topics in detail in functions. As of now, what is a function in Python? How to create it? Just use the def keyword, function name, and what is the parameter it is accepting. And here we are calling the function, right? So add a comma b. So we are, what we are passing to this function, we are passing the entire two matrices, right? So A and B we're passing to this function, right? So now after this, what is your work? What you have to do? How will you add two matrices? Tell me, anyone? So obviously initialization is required, right? You have to initialize the matrix to zeros because we should know what is the index of each element. For that, we need an empty matrix with zero. So just now I explained how will you create an empty matrix with zero? Tell me, type it anyone. First thing we need is empty matrix with zero. Yes. So I'm just going to explain this problem. Based on this, you can solve the other problems also. So complete the function. So sometimes they will give the existing code, and based on the understanding of the existing code, you have to complete the remaining function. No one remembers? Just now we discussed, right? Zero for I in range of, should I write R here or column, right? Zero for I in range of column, then come out of the list for J in range of rows. Can I write like this? Will it initialize my resultant matrix? Okay, so let me enter the matrix 3 cross 3. Then this is the first matrix. Then again, I have to enter the second matrix. So we are printing the matrix A, we are printing the matrix B, right? So this much it is done. Let's try to print this result. Print result. I'll take the 2 cross 2 only so that we can see it. Okay. Yes, I'll tell you, Avinash. I'll tell you. So 0 cross 0, it is working. Correct. R range of C and range of R we are mentioning. Since we can access these elements directly from here. Suppose sometimes if you can't access this R and C, you can calculate that value by using this A and B. Correct. So A and B is basically represented as a matrix, right? So you can find out the number of columns in A by just mentioning the length of A of 0. So length of A of 0 means, what is this syntax? So A of 0 means, suppose if your matrix is like this, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, right? So when I say A of 0, it is finding out total length of the elements in the first row of the matrix. So that indirectly what it is giving me, total number of columns. So if you find out the length of the rows, indirectly what you are finding, you are finding the total number of columns in the matrix, right? Similarly, how will you find the total number of rows? Just find the length of A. The length of A will give you the total number of rows, right? So length of A of 0 will give you the total number of columns in each row. You can write A of 0, A of 1 also, doesn't matter. But here we are initializing it. So let me enter it. Something, just have to restart. Okay. I think I added extra bracket here. That's why. So 0 for I in a range of length of A of 0 here. Yeah. to cross to. Acha, okay. Inside the length, I have to add the a of 0. Okay. So let's try to print. See why I am getting indentation error here? Because again, inside this for loop, it has to come. And this entire sentences should be inside this DEF. So if you start here also, you'll get the error because we are inside the function. So be careful with this. Okay, now can you see the elements are initialized? Okay. So initially what we were getting, 2 zeros we were getting again because we had mentioned R and C as the values here, right? So we have to find out the length of A of 0 means we are indirectly finding the total number of columns. Then this will find the total number of rows. Then based on that, it is initializing them to zeros. Okay. Now somebody asked why we are making all zeros. So there are 2, 3 approaches for this. This is the first one, which I am explaining you. So if you initialize them, you can just follow the C syntax, which will make your job much easier. For I in range of, 1 minute, getting a call. Okay. So for I in range of length of what I told you, A, right? So length of A will give you the total number of rows. Then for J in range of length of A of 0, this will give you the total number of columns. Then the result of ij. So you know how to do the matrix multiplication. So result of ij equal to what I have to write here, A of ij plus B of ij, correct? This is a basic syntax for adding the two matrices, A of ij plus B of ij. Then we can try to print. So from where, which line I have to start the print statement? Should I start here only or should I come back to this for loop? Print resultant matrix is right. How will you print for I in result print I, right? That's how we do it using two lines. Okay, now let's try to check whether it is adding or not. So my first matrix is 1, 2, 3, 4. Second matrix is also 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we have initialized to 0. Then we are getting the resultant matrix as 2, 4, 6, 8. So each elements are getting added 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, and 4, 4 are getting added. Now somebody asked, right? So let me comment line this one, why it is important. So I'm not initializing it. I'm not initializing it and I'm just directly mentioning that matrix as result of empty, correct? So we are just creating an empty matrix. Now we'll try to see whether it works, why it is necessary. Okay, so what is the problem you are getting here? List index out of range. Now Avinash try to understand why it is giving me error. Because we have not initialized it. If you don't initialize it, what is the problem you will get? You have to understand. We just created an empty list, right? Then we are trying to print it with this syntax. Exactly. So when we deal with the matrix in Python, there is a different syntax as you already saw in the beginning. So here, compiler doesn't know whether this result is a 1D matrix or 2D matrix. It will only see based on what you write. So at this point, what is the problem? It is only thinking it as a 1D matrix, right? 1D array. Result equal to empty list means it is treated as a 1D array. Then when you're coming here and trying to access I and j value, the compiler doesn't know what is I and j index value. But if you initialize with that, zeros. So compiler knows that result is a 2D matrix because all the columns are initialized to 0, 0. So result will be considered as a 2D matrix. If you don't initialize it, then the compiler will not be able to understand whether it is a 1D matrix or 2D matrix. Then you'll get this index error. Okay, that's why for this approach, it is mandatory. If you're following this approach, just two for loops, then you have to make sure that you are initializing that with the zeros. Compulsorily, you have to do it. Suppose if you don't want to initialize like that, then you can follow the normal approach where we just add the values, right? Using the append function, like you said. So in that case, you need not to initialize. You can just uh, uh, use this approach, right? So what we can do for I in range length of a, just 2 minutes, I'll wind up. Then for chain, so what you have to do, like previously we did, so you can create an empty list here. Then for chain range of length of a of 0, correct? So here what you have to do, row dot append. What I have to append? The addition of a of ij plus b of ij, correct? Then this entire row I have to append into the result. So result dot append row. Now in this case, you may not require to initialize. See, I'm not initialized in this case. So let's see whether it works. Correct. See, when I'm trying to print the matrix also here, it is not printing anything because it's an empty matrix. But it is working without initializing. So this is a common approach, right? So for this thing, you need not to initialize. So it's a row dot append function we are using. Why it is working? Can anyone tell me? Without initializing, why it is working? Without initializing, why it is working? Yes, very good. So here, are we accessing any element using index, right? Only A of ij and B of ij, we are accessing using index, correct? Because they are 2D matrix, because we already used a loop and entered the values here. So A of ij and B of ij, we are using two indices. But are we using two indices for this row result? No, right? All that we are doing is we are appending the entire row. So basically, we are not adding the elements using the indices, right? But previously, what I did, I used this syntax, right? So instead of this, what I typed, result of I of j equal to A of ij plus B of ij, correct? Now, what is the problem here? We are telling the compiler, take this value and store it in this index, right? I and j index. And compiler doesn't know whether the result is 1D array or 2D array. So that's why we can't directly access like this. If you want to directly access like this, you have to initialize it just like how you initialized A and B, right? So initialize that to 0 first, then access it using the index. If you don't want to initialize, create an empty list, then use this append or result dot append row. This is also possible. So whatever you find it easy, that you can follow. So hope you are understanding how to do 2D operations and understand the constraints. These are all constraints. Sometimes they'll tell initialize the result and then add it. Got it? Any doubt you have? Avinash, is it clear? Okay, so what about others? Any doubts? So now what you can do is just go to this program. You can keep this code as it is because it will work. You need not to change anything. Just whatever I explained, you can just complete the function here. So it's just a 2 minutes work. If you understood whatever I explained in the session, complete the remaining programs, right? Similarly, the last question is 9 and 10th question. In 10th question, we are just checking whether the multiplication is possible or not. So what is the multiplication condition? Okay, generally, this is maybe no lowercase a. See, wait, I'll just clarify it out. This is my mistake actually. Maybe I have not added a test case to see both the edge cases. Generally, if there are some hidden edge cases, I'll make sure that I'll mention in the test cases. Maybe for this I have missed it. That is mistake from my side. Okay, so I'll make sure that all the edge cases are properly mentioned. Okay, sure, sure. I'll just disable the hidden test case so that you can learn it. But generally, what I do is I'll make sure all the edge cases are mentioned in the test case itself. That's why I add 2, 3 test cases in the question. Maybe for this, it's a long question. I made a mistake while typing. I think I've just forgot to mention that condition. Okay, so don't worry. All the future problems will be mentioned. What should be printed if there is no value? That also I will mention. Maybe I forgot for this particular question. But you see, 99%. I think for all the previous problems, you didn't face any such issue. Okay. So the last question here is ninth question in the 2D matrix. Is multiplication is possible or not? Correct. So what is the multiplication rule for the matrix? Can anyone tell me? Just 2 minutes. Because this is the last session before your internals. Maybe I extended it further. So we will resume the classes only after your internals. Right. So I will extend the list of problems and string problems also up to 30th because some people requested. So you can complete your mid exams, then reattempt all those problems from the list and as well as string problems. Okay, but make sure you are executing them. So for matrix multiplication, the condition should be what? Suppose if first matrix is of size 3 cross 2 and second matrix is of size 4 cross 2, can we multiply these matrices? Yes, anyone? You know this condition because you already learned it in the first year. First sem you learned it. Can we multiply the two matrices of this size? 3 rows, 2 columns, and 4 rows, 2 columns. What should be the condition? Yes. So Vijay Chandra, C2 equal to R1. I think you are telling in reverse. So 3 cross 2, 4 cross 2 is what I typed, right? So the number of columns in the first matrix should be equal to the number of rows in the second matrix, right? So here the number of columns is 2 and the number of rows is 4 in the second matrix. So we say multiplication is not possible. Suppose if the matrix is 3 cross 3, first matrix, and the second matrix is 3 cross 2. Now the number of columns in the first matrix is 3 and the number of rows in the second matrix is 3, then multiplication is possible. Right. So that's what we are checking in the last question. So we are not doing any multiplication operation that I will teach you in the next session. Right. But we are just checking whether this R1, sorry, C1 and R1 are same or not. If C1 and R1 are different, we say that multiplication is not possible. If they are same, we say that multiplication is possible, right? So just try to solve that problem. I will be adding few more problems after your internals based on 2D matrix. Right now, what you are going to solve is very simple problems. Okay. So just practice those problems based on today's session. All the problems I have already discussed during the sessions. Just need to complete them in the model. 1 minute, 1 minute. Yeah, this is the hidden test case. See, the problem here is you might be printing the last three items. This is in the tuple format. We call it as a tuple because you are reading the input with the comma, right? So when you are printing the last three elements, it is displaying the tuple format, and some elements are displaying in the list format. So you should be careful about that. Okay. So fine. We're already 20 minutes late. So I don't want to disturb you guys further. Prepare for your mid exams. Do well there, and don't lose the interest in Python. Hope you are able to learn it, whatever I'm teaching. If you have any other doubts, please post it in the Q&A forum. I'll reply there. Okay. So all the best for your internals. The remaining classes I will resume after your mid exams. Okay. So see you in the next session. Take care.